From the National Newsroom of the Canadian Press, I'm Karen Rebo. Against the backdrop of devastating conflicts raging around the world, the winner of this year's Nobel Peace Prize has been announced in Norway. The Norwegian Nobel Committee has awarded the Peace Prize to Nihon Hidankyo, a Japanese organization of survivors of the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, for its activism against nuclear weapons. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has offered his condolences to the family of a Canadian who was killed in Lebanon. Fighting between Israel and Hezbollah has mounted into an all-out war in recent weeks, with Israeli airstrikes killing 22 people in central Beirut yesterday. Global Affairs Canada has not publicly identified the person who died, but this marks the third death of a Canadian in Lebanon in less than a month. Trudeau says the violence needs to end.
We need a ceasefire in Lebanon and in Gaza. We need to get more humanitarian aid in. We need to see the hostages released.
Trudeau was speaking today from Laos while wrapping up his attendance at the Association of Southeast Asian Nations Summit. He says Canada needs to keep up its presence in Southeast Asia if it wants to benefit from the region's economic boom. The Liberal and the NDP Pharmacare bill is now set to become law after passing the Senate and receiving royal assent last night. The legislation will allow the federal government to sign deals with provinces and territories to cover diabetes and birth control medications. More meds will be added as the program expands. Florida residents are still sifting through, assessing, even starting to repair the damage caused by Hurricane Milton. The storm smashed through coastal communities, flooded streets, and spawned a barrage of deadly tornadoes. Canadian linemen are getting grueling days and gratitude while helping with U.S. hurricane outages. Quebecer Stephen Perreault and his team of linemen have been helping restore power in North Carolina since Hurricane Helene hit in late September, and they don't expect to be heading home anytime soon. They are some of the hundreds, possibly thousands of Canadian line workers who have been called into service to help rebuild power grids after Helene and now Hurricane Milton have left millions of Canadians in the dark. A Supreme Court of Canada ruling has cleared the way for a former professor to sue his accusers for defamation.
Novelist and former University of British Columbia writing professor Stephen Galloway sued several people in 2018, alleging he was defamed with false sexual assault allegations. The ruling by Canada's highest court effectively upholds a BC appeal court finding that the alleged defamatory statements were not protected by the province's Protection of Public Participation Act. Galloway's lawyer, Dan Burnett, says it's a priority his client's case gets to trial.
Stephen's reputation and life were devastated by criminal allegations that most of us, I think, could not even imagine.
The BC law bans strategic lawsuits that aim to silence or deter commentary on matters of public interest. David Bowles, The Canadian Press.
This is The Canadian Press. In sports, NHL action last night. Linus Ullmark's official debut with the Ottawa Senators was a success, with the goaltender making 30 saves in a 3-1 win over the defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. Tim Stützle scored twice for Ottawa. Goalie Dennis Hildeby stopped 22 shots in his first NHL game as the Toronto Maple Leafs beat the New Jersey Devils 4-2. Jeremy Swayman stopped 21 shots in his first game with Boston as the Bruins beat the Montreal Canadiens 6-4. In baseball playoffs, pinch hitter David Fry had a go-ahead 2-run homer in the 7th to help the Cleveland Guardians to a 5-4 win over the Detroit Tigers, which forces a decisive Game 5 Saturday in their American League Division Series. The other ALDS is over, the New York Yankees scoring a 3-1 win over Kansas City, punching a ticket to the American League Championship Series. And in the NFL, San Francisco beat Seattle 36-24 to join the Seahawks in first place in the NFC West. From the Canadian Press, I'm Karen Rebo.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to follow and subscribe. For more of today's top stories, visit thecanadianpressnews.ca.